Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS. Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving.
Greetings, race fans, and welcome to Apex Racing TV's presentation of the Radical Esports Cup. J.R. Gregory here on the call. Beside me in the commentary booth, racing Ron Mons, and in the production carrier, our friend and colleague, Joshua Wilkie. The starter of the show, we're the Radical SR10, 425 horsepower, 725 kilos, no traction control, no ABS, and these cars are a handful on the best of days. And folks, we are broadcasting the top split of today's public server as we do every Friday at 2100 GMT. This is not a league or a private event. So you can join us, test your skills wheeling this Radical, and appear on Apex Racing TV. And I say it every week, mastering this car with its lack of nannies, high power, and high grip will make you better at every car that you drive. And our upcoming schedule has some great venues. Road Atlanta, Monza without the first chicane, Mount Panorama, and Donington Park. So please give this car a try and join us here on Apex Racing TV. So here we are as this season is winding down. We are at Sebring, which began life and as Hendricks Army Airfield from 1941 to 1946. And at the end of World War II, gearheads will do what gearheads will do when they see acres of unused tarmac, and that is create a racetrack. Alec Ullman, the guilty party behind Sebring, is striving to build an American track to rival Cirque du Soleil, the site of Le Mans, first endurance race held here in South Florida in 1950. Since that time, Sebring has played host to F1, the World Endurance Championship, IMSA, Trans Am, and many, many more. Today's configuration, 3.7 miles, which is just over 6 clicks, 17 corners. The current track record of 141.8 was set in 2019 by Kamui Kobayashi in a Toyota LMP1 during WEC World Endurance Championship competition. So, Ron, last time we were here just last season, and the schedulers kind of threw the drivers a curveball by having the race take place at night. Seemed like the drivers kind of struggled with that. There's a lot of things to struggle with at Sebring, particularly in these radicals. And today they're going to have a full view of all those bumps and curves as they wheel through this long and difficult track. So what are you expecting out of these cars and drivers today?
Well, I'm expecting to see a lot of these drivers really struggling for grip. We saw it last time that the series raced here when it was run at the night. The drivers were really struggling for the mechanical grip, having zero temperature in their tires for the first 5 laps of the race. That won't be as much of an issue here tonight, but the lack of aerodynamic grip will definitely play havoc when it comes to these drivers trying to get around the track as fast as they possibly can. You mentioned there the bumps. This track has merchandise that says respect the bumps, and you really have to. This top end of the circuit that we see James Berry driving through right now is actually used by IndyCar throughout the off-season to test their cars for street circuits, and this is really the smooth part of the track. So the fact that the smoothest part of this entire circuit is used to test IndyCars for their street circuit capabilities really shows you how bumpy this track is. That's a very tricky corner right there, tower corner. That's going to be very tough for those drivers. If they hit that inside curb, probably the most treacherous curb on this entire racetrack, if they hit that, their car is going to be starting to bounce like a pogo stick. It's a really tough corner to get right, as are a lot of the corners on this track. Our producer Josh outlined when we were talking about this combination before the start of this broadcast that going around the final corner sunset curve is going to be really, really tricky with the terrible bumps going between chunks of concrete. It's going to be really tricky for these drivers to try and get right, but I think we're in for a really good race with those drivers having a lot of areas to make mistakes and a lot of areas to pass as well.
I'm looking forward to a great race as well, and that is going to wrap up qualifying. We'll have the grid for you in just a moment, but while we wait for that, let me just run you through the season top 10. P1 is Daniel Lamba, P2 Andreas Friedrich, P3 James Berry, 4th is John McCutcheon, and rounding out the top 5 is Jorge Gonzaga. And folks, I got to tell you, all 5 of these drivers are here participating in our 2100 Friday GMT broadcast. So if you are tuned in, you're going to get the treat of watching some of the best esports drivers in the world. And Wrighton and Ianni, Hernandez, Rees, and Caruso are going to round up the season top 10. And there is our grid. Lamba, our season leader right now, is going to take the pole. James Berry will be next to him. In this next row, John McCutcheon and Andreas Friedrich. Arnaud Ganest and Andre Castro will be there in, that's 5 and 6. Sanchez and Carter Lundy in the next row in 6 and 7. As we scroll on through, we'll show you the back half here in a moment. And looks like we got some shiny new graphics running today. I kind of like that. Oh, you know, I may, Josh has set me straight here. I may not have the right project file loaded, but I'll just keep rolling here. I got Walters and Ianni in 9th and 10th, followed by Berger, Kadura, Iadi, Benalid, Dennis Kyriakopoulos, Euler, Hulkinen, Mari, Jorge Gonzaga all the way back in 19th. Be looking to see him move forward. Then we got Pearson, Gallus, and Lelevre. And my goodness, what happened to Jorge Gonzaga all the way back in P19? So we'll be keeping an eye on him as our potential hard charger. And just a couple minutes for the green lights here. We're looking at Lamba there on your right. He is going to have the inside line coming into turn 1. And we're counting down here to the start, riding along with Lamba now. Lamba looks like he gets a pretty good launch. Ice cold tires, no traction control. Lamba's going to have Berry to his outside on his right, McCutcheon right behind. He's covering the inside and doing a good job holding that early position there. Meanwhile, Carter Lundy has jumped up a number of spots, and there's already a problem in the mid-pack there. You see a couple cars washing out of turn 1 and into the barriers there. Looks like Iadi was one of those, and I'm not sure who is there with him. Hulkinen might have been involved in that too. He had a little tangle off of the start. And there it is, and look at Gonzaga aggressively trying to make up for his bad qualifying, taking the way inside. And there you see, Hulkinen and Iadi tangling and sliding off. Doesn't look like they have much damage, so they are going to roll forward. And meanwhile, it looks like McCutcheon has gotten by Barry. So your top three now, Lamba, McCutcheon, Barry, Friedrich, and the hard-charging Carter Lundy. And a pretty clean start, but man, this one is not over, and I'm predicting we're going to see some hectic moments here as this one unfolds. And there's somebody else turning there. Oh my goodness. And who are we losing? That's Franco Sanchez falling through the field, and a cloud of smoke there in turn 2-3-4 complex. And Ron, holy cow, these races normally start pretty clean, but this bumpy difficult track catching some of these drivers out early.
Very chaotic, but not really the most shocking development in the world at a track like this. So bumpy, so technical, so tricky. I was expecting a lot of mistakes, and we've seen them already. Drivers beating and banging and roughing each other up. We're so early on into this race. We're not even at the end of lap 1. We have 13 laps of this race for these drivers to negotiate, but they're already starting to beat and bang with each other. But I will say, you can see some 3-wide action here heading into the final corner. You can see Friedrich there on the inside, Barry on the outside. In the middle of that was McCutcheon there. The fact they managed to get through that corner without hitting each other was truly unbelievable. But I did see a little bit of a puff of smoke, and Friedrich has actually lost out on 4th position there to Lundy. So now Lundy up in P4 as they end this first lap. That was some 3-wide action here. Not the only bit of 3-wide action that we saw there on lap 1. I saw some 4-wide action heading into turn 1 on the first lap. That was a very hectic start with all these drivers just pushing these cars to the absolute edge and racing each other as hard as they possibly can, regardless of what lap it is, whether it be on lap 1, lap 2, or all the way on lap 13. You can see now Connor Pearson trying to get a move done. A lot of drivers racing very hard very early on.
Yeah, Pearson sticking it inside of Euler there, and my goodness, after some wild action in the front here, and my timing tower, I apologize. I have kind of lost track here. I've got the wrong situation loaded. My apologies to our viewers. It's still Lamba from McCutcheon, from Barry, from Lundy, but Lundy has gotten past Barry now, and Barry is now going to have Friedrich sniffing around behind him. So we saw Barry have some struggles last week at Olton Park, and that is continuing. And some salty language on iRacing comms as more cars come together on the back side of the track. My goodness.
That was, I believe, Walters and Cadora. We're going to get a very quick replay. Thank you very much, Josh. Here, heading into turn 9, I believe we're following Iadi. This might have been the car to kick all of this off. I think this might have been, yeah, you can see the chaos farther up the road. You can see a nice little quick spin there. I think he may have made slight contact there with Cadora. We're riding on board with Cadora now. A little bit of a half spin, and I think that was Walters that he made contact with, trying to get rejoined on the track and in the right direction. That's a very unfortunate incident to have so very early on in this race. Another replay, Cadora there. Yeah, just a very ill-advised rejoin. I would have to say 2 ill-advised rejoins if I'm being brutally honest. Samir Cadora, bless his heart, but he does have a little bit of a reputation of being a bit of a reckless driver in this series, and after 2, really 3 pretty reckless rejoins back to back, I think he's really solidifying that bad reputation that he has there. Very unfortunate incident for all the drivers involved.
Yeah, and Lundy and McCutcheon have both pushed their way past Barry again, who has fallen to P4, and Carter Lundy has moved up 5 positions as we see Lamba beginning to build a gap with all this dicing behind him. He's got 3 seconds now back to P2 and McCutcheon. Meanwhile, McCutcheon, Lundy, and Barry are all packed together. McCutcheon covering the inside on the entry to the hairpin there. Maybe. Yeah, and here our producer is telling me that we're going to take a look at Lundy pushing his way through the crowd here, elbows out, and that is him in the number 4 car. And in live action, Lundy had just got past McCutcheon. So Lundy, a name not familiar to us here on our Friday broadcast, is driving like a demon. And there was McCutcheon over-rotating the car. It looks like Lundy got a freebie there, but Lundy now up 6 positions into P2. Your Podium right now, Lamba, Lundy from Barry in 1, 2, and 3. My goodness.
Mick Hutchison, that was an unbelievable moment going through a very tricky corner. That was coming through the turn 11 and 12 section there. That was actually heading through turn 11. A very tricky corner, arguably the most annoying corner from my perspective on this entire racetrack. Just trying to ease on the throttle going through there is really, really tricky, and I think Mick Hutchison got caught out by that. We're taking a look at a replay. There's Lundy going for the move heading into turn 10, and then we're going to follow Mick Hutchison going through this corner. Very tricky to get on the power. I think made a little bit of contact there. Actually, no, he pulled out, trying to get a move done on Carter Lindy heading through turn 12 and turn 13, but unfortunately misjudged it horribly there. Went very sideways. He was very lucky to keep it out of the barrier, but he still lost quite a lot of time dropping down the order, as now trying to battle with Andreas Friedrich for that final top 5 position, but still a very tough turn of things with Mick Hutchison, who has now grabbed that P5 spot.
Yeah, and all this kerfuffling up front has allowed Friedrich to catch up here now. So McCutcheon's going to be watching his rearview mirror for Andreas Friedrich, who has pace typically in these events and gets a fire under him when he has that car that close in front. As you see, I guess that's Jeunesse there taking a peek on the inside of Barry heading into the hairpin. So a lot of great racing action up front here today at Sebring.
This is absolutely awesome, Matt. Something we come to expect at a track like this, where slipstreaming is definitely the name of the game at certain parts of this track. Well, in other parts, this is being one of them, heading through turn 10, where we've seen plenty of drivers get caught out already. It's a nice blend of things that we love from these radicals. These drivers just hauling the mail and chucking these cars around the tight, twisty sections of this racetrack, and also those long flat-out blasts where all those drivers are slipstreaming past each other and forming a little bit of a train, especially up towards the front, where the gaps are fairly small between Lundy and McCutcheon, really between Lundy and Friedrich there, between those between those 4 cars. Actually 5, my apologies. You can tell I was always great in math class. That's about 2 seconds, about 2.5 seconds, my apologies, separating all of them. So really close field up towards the front of this field. Meanwhile, Lamba is just skated off into the distance. He is driving into the sunset, going through Sunset Curve right now. A very tight pack farther behind him. Just the hard racing we always come to expect from this series, and fingers crossed we see a lot more of it when Sebring returns to the calendar here next time by. We will definitely touch on the calendar that will be revealed in the coming days of the season 2 for this Radical Esports Cup. It is a fantastic schedule. I called it badass when I was talking to some of the drivers earlier this week. As you can see now, Barry dropping back, losing a position to Jens, who's just at the fastest lap of the race there. So Jens down P3, clawing his way up through the field nicely, a name that I do not recognize, impressing thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeunesse was polishing Barry's for that entire lap, got it down to 0.1, 0.2, and he kind of knew that move into turn 1 was inevitable, as Jeunesse caught the draft on the start-finish straight, stuck it inside of Barry there in turn 1, and some great battling up front here. And now Barry, what are we looking at now? That's Sanchez on Benalid back there for P10. Sanchez trying to push his way up into the top 10 after having some difficulties early on, and he has done that. Now he's looking forward to Gonzaga, who has moved up 10, as I predicted, and also Durian Lelevre has moved up 15 positions. Our current hard charger sitting there in P7, and some fantastic racing here today. These radicals can sometimes spread out a little bit, but there is dicing going on throughout the field and some fantastic action here on track today.
Pretty hard stuff, even though we're only 5 laps into this race. All these drivers battling hard, and when I saw that Lievre was up 15 positions from where he started, I thought there was some kind of glitch on my screen. I was like, am I seeing this correctly, or I need to get my glasses readjusted and get a new prescription? But no, up 15 spots from where he started. Quite a very impressive drive from the driver of the number 18 car. I think, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for him to claim any more spots, because you can see Andreas Friedrich quite a long ways up the road, who actually nearly hitting the cones, heading through the final corner. I think he may be able to hold on to that position, but I don't think it's very likely that he moves up into P6, and you can see Jorge Gonzaga. He had a little bit of help there in that spin coming through the final corner, but this is going to cost him dearly. Oh no, he's going to have to hit the reverse gear and get it spun around here to go back in the right direction, try not to avoid hitting the cones on pit entry. We're getting a very quick replay here to see what in the world happened to him. I think hard racing gone wrong, a little bit of a bump there. Actually, that was too two bumps there. Jorge Gonzaga had two big spikes there of oversteer, and sadly it caught him out badly as he's now dropped down like a rock through the running order.
Yeah, that inside line through Sunset. There are a million different ways that you can go through there, and hugging the inside by that blue curbing, going through Sunset under the bridge. There's a huge bump right there. Obviously, these radicals not dealing with the uneven pavement really well there. You saw that with Gonzaga, normally a very good and in control driver, but the cars got sideways on him a couple times, and the second one may have had a little bit of tap there from behind due to slowing unexpectedly after that big slide. And that's one of maybe of the disadvantages of using fixed setups here. These drivers might like a little different spring rate, might like a little different damper settings to handle this rough pavement here at Sebring. And Gonzaga definitely getting the short end of the stick on Sunset that time through. Meanwhile, we're looking at Benalid, whose name I'm surely pronouncing wrong. He's pushing Pearson from behind. He's got Sanchez behind him as we go through the Le Mans section and get close to the back straightaway. This is lap 6 of 13. The leader's already through to begin lap 7. So this one going by pretty quickly here, and nonstop action there. There's Lamba, who has stretched out his gap to about 3.5 seconds with all the battling behind him. Then it's Lundy from Gnest, from Barry, from McCutcheon, and Friedrich now sniffing around behind McCutcheon, about 1/10 of a gap for him, and he wants to break into the top 5 as we see them coming into turn 1. That's Friedrich polishing the bumper of McCutcheon, and McCutcheon having to watch his rearview mirror when he would prefer to be planning his move on Barry.
That was another fastest lap of the race last time by for Gnest, still running in P3. I think it won't be very long until he catches up to Lundy in P2. We might have a Canadian Civil War for the final 2 positions on the podium, because those two right now separated by about it's about 0.6 of a second, separating those two drivers right now, teetering around the 0.6 of a second barrier. But you can see that gap between those two is closing with every passing lap. The gap, the pace gap to him isn't the largest in the world. It's definitely quite small. But I think, yeah, you can see now, quick look. Thank you very much, Josh. Looking at the graphics now on the left-hand side of your screen, Gnest's fastest lap of the race is about 0.2 of a second quicker than Lundy's fastest lap of the race. So I think it won't be too long until Gnest catches up. I think if he plays his cards right and just pushes this radical SR10 of his at the right time, he will be able to claw that P2 position. But one thing that plays a massive role, especially at a track like this, which is so bumpy, where the tires are basically driving on a cheese grater, the tire management is incredibly important at a track like this. So I gotta wonder if Gnest is really burning up his tires, or if he's just running at a comfortable fast pace for him, and Lundy is actually one burning up his tires, just trying to stay ahead of him.
Yeah, that gap has increased certainly since the last lap, and something about these cars, Ron, we talk about it week in and week out, is tire management. So it could be that Gnest was feeling his tires heat up, feeling that radical slither around uncomfortably on this track. He may be giving his tires a couple laps to recover before setting up and planning whatever kind of move is in his mind against Lundy. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that for you and see what develops there. And my goodness. And meanwhile, Barry, McCutcheon, and Friedrich are all packed together in a pretty good group. We're going to see those cars come to blows before too much longer here. And there we are. There's Barry leading McCutcheon from Friedrich. And as Ron likes to say, you could throw a blanket over those three as they make their way around the old airfields of Sebring.
Maybe I'm using that term way too much. I think I may need to come up with another one. How about they're packed together like sardines? That's a new one for you there, JR.
Oh my goodness. And who are we looking at there?
Iati.
Somebody, that's Iati, is having a problem just crossing, coming out of Sunset as well. Don't see a lot of damage there, but we're gonna go back and take a look, see what happened at Iati. And the same thing we saw with Gonzaga, very bumpy there across that apex. And actually yeah, a little tank slapper. I was going to say he kept that out of the barriers, but he did not. Caught a little bit of concrete on that exit there. And Iati is now at the back looking forward all the way down in P22. So the bumpy tarmac here at Sebring being unkind to some of these drivers. And here we are back with McCutcheon now. He's reeled in James Berry again. That is a 0.24 gap. We'll see what he can get going on the Ullman straight here. And we may see another move into turn one if he's able to maximize his exit from Sunset and get a good draft on the start-finish straight. Here we are looking forward again at Berry riding along with John McCutcheon in P5.
Ooh, looks like he may try and go for the move coming around the final corner. Not close enough, but you can see Berry has drifted out a little bit going through the corner. So I think McCutcheon may have a fantastic run coming out here going into turn one. The slipstream plays such a massive role at this track, and it's helping McCutcheon try to pull to the inside, trying to get the move done heading into one. They're going side by side, and he'll be able to clear him going through that first corner, but it's not over yet. I think Berry will try and counter here heading into turn three. We've seen drivers come to blows there in real life. End of the race at the Sebring 12 hour this past year, but they managed to get through there cleanly. But I think those two can't battle as hard as they'd usually want, because you can see Friedrich is right behind them, willing to bite at them. If there's any sort of moment, you can see there now, that's Holkinen spinning around yet again. The drivers had a very dramatic race, nearly got hit by Ayani and another car. I believe that's Ayani and Marquis that were arriving on that scene very, very quickly. But Holkinen, very dramatic race thus far, had that turn one incident on lap one, and has yet another incident this time. I don't think it was any of his fault. A little bit of contact there from the 19 heading through turn three. Lucky that he didn't get hit by any other car.
Yeah, that could have been way worse. Good evasion and awareness by the cars behind. And Hulkinen now looking forward at that fight developing with Castro, Gonzaga, and Gallus there. And Gonzaga has been up and down this field kind of like I don't know, a roller coaster. He started at the back, moved up pretty good, and has fallen back again. And my goodness, we usually see Gonzaga doing better in these races, but struggling here at Sebring. Here's Gallus looking ahead to Gonzaga and Castro, and washing out of Tower. Very difficult spot there, coming in hot and bumpy area under braking. And you see Gallus again get caught out by this bumpy road here. And now we are back to the front. It's McCutcheon from Berry from Friedrich. Berry's maybe going to try the over-under here. Maybe try to get a draft, and due to McCutcheon what was done to him on the previous lap, you see that gap coming down as we're going under the bridge entering turn one. Berry's going to take a peek and is going to have Friedrich on the inside as well, almost three wide there, and Berry backed out of that one at the last minute. McCutcheon making the defense work on the outside line somehow, and now it's still Berry from McCutcheon from Friedrich, and again packed into there like sardines, as Rod would say, as we are getting underway here in lap 10, 3 to go.
The drivers are really heating up the battles all across the track, whether it be outside the top 10, inside the top 5, or for the podium positions. I saw Lundy and Genet, as we were corrected in the YouTube chat. Genet are still battling there. You can see them swapping positions. Genet now moving into P2. They were battling quite hard heading into 1. They continue to battle hard. The gap between those two is about 0.2 of a second. You can see now the 7 is ahead for now. You can see Lundy trying to get a move done heading into 10. And we'll see if he can hold it on. Ooh, a little bit of sliding from the both of them. Coming out of that corner, trying to go through turn number 11, heading into 12 and heading into Tower now. But as they've battled hard, you can see it's now drawn McCutcheon, Berry, and Friedrich into this fight. So that split pack that was 3 cars farther back and then 2 cars battling of Lundy and Genet has now turned into a 5-horse race. This is going to be really good stuff between now and the checkered flag. We still have a little bit to play for. They're going to be starting lap 11 next time by, so it will be 3 to go. This time by, it's going to be pretty hard stuff here for the final podium spot.
Yeah, and look at that line of radicals, 5 of them right in a row. And folks, I'm not kidding. These are some of the finest esports drivers in the world, especially as pertains to these radicals. As I told you, Lundy, McCutcheon, and Berry all sitting in the top 10 on the season, as the season winding down now, only a couple of weeks left. And looking back now at Lundy with Genet sniffing around his rear bumper. McCutcheon's got Berry and Friedrich threatening him from behind, and non-stop action up front here. What a fantastic race at Sebring today.
Here's a real quick question for you, JR. We'll see if any sort of action develops here in the first series of corners, but I'll ask you this real quick. Of these, of this 5-car pack, which one do you feel the most and least confident in about them holding the position?
That's a really good question, Ron. I think McCutcheon is really going to be under the most pressure here, and he also has some of the better drivers behind him. Barry obviously has shown his stuff very well over the past couple of seasons. Won overall last season, sitting in P2 or P3 this season. And you can never count out Andreas Friedrich, because Friedrich is willing to roll the dice. And so that might actually put James Barry in a little bit of danger. Friedrich will sometimes stick it in places when maybe it's not the wisest or most conservative approach, and I could certainly see Barry getting collected by Friedrich here toward the end, with Friedrich wanting to move up into the top 5.
I think Barry at this rate is feeling like he needs to get a good result. He didn't have the best race in the world last week out at Alton Park, and right now he's still running in a decent position, running in the top 5, but I think he craves just a little bit more. Maybe that one spot at McCutcheon is definitely on the cards for him. I doubt very highly a podium run would be on the cards for him, because those drivers are a little bit farther up the road, but still I think Barry is under quite a lot of pressure here. We'll see if he cracks. He's a driver that's shown a lot of poise and calmness in very tense moments. You can see, speaking of tense moments, Lundy is now getting overtaken yet again, coming through the final corner. Genet has slipped past to move into P2, but it's not over yet. I think Lundy has got a fantastic run in that slipstream, which is very potent at a track like this, basically on sea level. Now Lundy is trying to get a move done, heading around the outside, heading into one. If he manages to pull off that move, it'll be brilliant, but he just wasn't close enough heading into the turn. But still not over yet. You can see Lundy and Genet still going side by side, heading into 3, very close to contact. Lundy having to run badly on the curb. That was definitely contact, heading through that corner. That was very hard stuff. They're lucky that they didn't spear off into the barriers, but all of that has allowed John McCutcheon to move up to the back of Lundy. He may have a very good shot of moving into the podium spots, because I think Lundy is a little bit rattled after that very hard battling with Genet.
Yeah, lap 12 of 13. And are these 5 going to maintain these positions, or is there going to be more swapping before this one is over? Really, these guys putting on a fantastic show here at Sebring, and really showing what good drivers can do under kind of adverse conditions. These Radicals, a handful on the silky smoothest tracks around, which Sebring definitely is not.
And these drivers are putting in very impressive performances. I love Sebring, and that's definitely not coming from me as a biased American. This track just puts on great racing all around, regardless of what series it is, and the Radicals are no exception. You can see now hard battling continuing. Now Lundy trying to get the move done, and he does so successfully on Genet, so that battling for those last 2 podium spots is still heating up. But I have a feeling, since we're going to be reaching the edge of this race here soon, I believe they'll be taking the white flag this time by. I have a feeling that Genet and Lundy are not going to be in those positions when they come back to take the checkered, because they're battling so hard. They made contact last time by. They're still battling hard. Now McCutcheon is being involved in that fight, nearly going 3 wide through the final corner. They are going 3 wide there. McCutcheon staking his claim on that position. He's moving, and you can see Lundy in front of them for now. Still, they're on the white flag now. 1 lap to go this time by. Now James Barry is getting involved in that fight. They're heading 3 wide, coming through turn 1. McCutcheon falls off a fantastic move to move in front of the both of them, but it's not over yet. They're still dicing and dancing for every single position they can. Barry, no, he's dancing off the road. Oh, he barely avoids the barriers, but James Barry dropping back like a rock. He may lose 2 positions here. Be very careful on the rejoin. James, ooh, a little bit of contact. I think his rear end might not be very happy about that contact, but all of that battling has taken 1 car out of this fight. You can see still hard stuff, dust being thrown. This is intense stuff here up towards the front of this field.
Oh my goodness. And if McCutcheon can hang on, he got a twofer there going into turn 1, taking advantage of the drivers battling in front of him. And that is without doubt the move of the race. Even if he doesn't keep that spot, what a pass at high speed through the bumpy turn 1. Josh is going to give us another look at this. Here they are coming out of Sunset down the straight. McCutcheon, the third of those 3 cars. And, to heck with it. I'm just going to stuff it inside, late break it over the bumps into turn 1, and makes it stick, even with, I guess that was Lundy sniffing around on the outside, trying to get him back into turn 3. Wow, that is fantastic driving by James McCutcheon. He pulls off some epic moves, and that is, he's getting a gold star for that one. That was awesome. Oh, and that, ooh,
God,
man,
that was a
Lundy.
very desperate move there from Lundy. I think he's seeing time run out, picked up a slowdown. Okay,
He's
Lundy is
getting a
out of that fight
slowdown
now.
for sure. He's getting a slowdown for sure for that. What an effort though. And this is the white flag has been taken. This is the last lap, and it is going to be McCutcheon in P2 after that epic pass. My goodness. And Daniel Lamba flashing his lights, having won, asking us how come he's not getting any attention. Well, Daniel, hopefully you'll watch the broadcast and understand why we got engrossed in that 2 through 5 battle. My goodness, what a race. And it is going to be Lamba from McCutcheon from Genet will be your podium. Then Friedrich Lundy, Lelevre, 16 positions up for P22. Berger, Barry, Sanchez, and Pearson will round out your top 10. We'll show you the whole grid in a second. But my goodness, that was absolutely nuts from McCutcheon, and maybe move of this season so far. Ron, what do you think?
Oh, that was amazing from start to finish. That was, I mean, that was some of the hardest battling I've ever seen in my nearly year covering this Radical series, back when it was called the Radical Racing Challenge, and now it's called the Radical Esports Cup. The name change has breathed a lot of light back into the series. That was absolutely amazing from start to finish. That was I don't think I don't think we could have asked for a better race, honestly, and I'm so glad we're gonna say that we're gonna touch on the schedule. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek. I am glad that Sebring is returning back to the schedule here for the Radical Esports Cup for Season 2 of 2024 in Week 10. We've got a fantastic schedule that we'll touch on in a little bit, but speaking of this, just focusing on tonight's racing action, I'm at a loss for words. That was awesome stuff. John McCutcheon gets my hero star. He gets the general star as far as I'm concerned. Beautiful moves. Kept himself cool and kept his tires under him as well to manage to have a great end of the race assault like he did there. That was brilliant to watch.
Wow, it really was, Ron, and there's so much adversity at this track, and to see these drivers fight through it, and some of the big risks they took in crunch time, particularly McCutcheon, and that battle for 2, 3, 4, and 5 there, an instant classic here at Sebring. Of course, Lamba never really threatened, so he gets the win easily from pole. But man, those 4 drivers that we're looking at now in the replay coming across the white flag there, that just kind of, oh, and here's McCutcheon stuffing it right down the inside of turn 1, little sideways there. The car control and the mastery of this Radical. Wow. I mean, I an instant classic. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, that is instant classic. My words exactly. When we put together our highlight reels of the broadcast here on Apex Racing TV and post them here on this channel, I think that overtake may have to be it for February. That is awesome stuff. And speaking of that highlight reel, I believe that'll be coming out, the highlight reel for the January broadcast. I think that may be coming out in just a few days' time. So if you want to stay up to date with all the stuff going on here on Apex Racing TV, hit the subscribe button. You know what to do if you've used YouTube for about 5 minutes, because I mean, I think the Radical series just on its own is enough to sell these viewers on subscribing here, but we've got awesome stuff around the clock here on Apex, with the Radicals being one of them, and I think definitely from my non-biased opinion, the Radicals being up at the tippy top of the great racing we have here.
Yeah, and really the special thing about these Radicals is they are public servers. So, folks, if this looks like fun to you, come join us 2100 GMT every Friday, and we'll get those results up for you now. I'm still catching my breath after that mayhem there. What a fantastic race. And there are your final results. Daniel Lombo is going to take the win easily due to all the fighting behind him. John McCutcheon, the hero of the day, after making that twofer on the inside of turn 1 on the white flag lap. Incredible. Arnaud Genet, Andreas Friedrich, and Carter Lundy will round out your top 5. Then we have Dorian Lelevre, who has moved up, let me check my timing, 16 positions after qualifying P22. Some people call that DFL dead flipping last, and he moved all the way up into P6. That is incredible. Gabriel Berger will be in P7. James Berry, after some struggles again for the second week, falls 6 positions down to P8. Franco Sanchez will be in 9. Connor Pearson in P10. Denis Kyriakopoulos in 11. Benalid, someone else whose name I'm saying wrong, in P12. Myron Ianni in 13. Mari in 14, followed by Castro, Gonzaga, Euler, David Walters in P18, Daniel Gallus in 19, Samir Kadura, after some more kind of banging, spinning, and dirt flinging, has fallen 8 positions down into P20. Iati in P22, and Hulkinen gets the no quitting award from me. He falls all the way to P22 after a couple of incidents, but keeps driving, doesn't park it as many people would be tempted to do. So there are your final results. Man, that was fantastic. And if you like this, folks, Apex Racing TV, we certainly have a shrine to these radicals in the corner of our office, you can see why today's race was awesome. But coming up this weekend, Sunday, Ray Esports will have Weekend Warriors, Spec Racer Ford, and Formula Ford, both at Belle Isle. Next week kicks off strong with Rick Matek Mixed Class Racing at Interlagos. Our new S1 GT3 series will be at the fantastic Mugello on Wednesday. So as Ron said, if you enjoyed today's broadcast, subscribe, like, and hit that notification icon for Apex Racing TV. And got a little bit over today, so I'm going to call it. I am J.R. Gregory. Beside me in the booth, Ron Mons, and our production maestro, Joshua Wilkie. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a fantastic Friday and a great weekend.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.